So one of the early DJs in the history of hip hop, his name was DJ Kool Herc. So he figured out how to extend the break by having 2 copies of the record and matching the beats and so on. So that was
the first one?
Yeah. He basically invented that. That was in the Bronx in late 70s or so. And that was like the birth of something, was that if you took just this skeletal version of something and stripped away all the other parts and then just stretched that out and let people explore and sort of discover in that space, then that could be the birth of something. That could be the place where something new happened, where stuff would happen. So that's what break stuff is. It's about the stuff that happens in the breaks. What gave rise to hip hop also gave rise to this thing called jazz. Because if you even listen to the way that Charlie Parker or even Lester Young or Coleman Hawkins would take a familiar song and strip away the main melody and then do something else inside of it that's not the song anymore, it's something else, right? It's the same idea. Well, the fact is that I do a lot of different things. And so the trio is something I move in and out of, actually. So there's a lot of discontinuity, to be honest. I guess the fact that we've been together for this amount of time, it means that we can keep pushing the material, pushing against it, actually. So nothing remains fixed or becomes too predictable, you know. Especially because we'll play, you know, we'll do a tour like we're doing now. We're in the middle of a tour. So we'll play a lot of music in a short period of time, you know, night after night in a different city for a different audience. So each piece kind of comes alive in a different way each night, and we don't even play the same program every night. We just sort of make choices as we go. So then, and then we might part ways for months, you know, and then we'll come back together. And then, because each of us has had a lot of other experiences in the meantime, you know. We record when we have the opportunity to record, so far the last 3 albums have been one every 3 years. In the meantime, we play a lot of gigs, and each time we're just trying to push against the material and also introduce new material and find ways to connect the old and the new and find ways to hear it differently. So that's the process that gives birth to what the music sounds like, you know? And so the album just becomes a way of trying to capture that, you know? This is a sort of environment that's constructed for the occasion, right? The tent, the whole sound system, and, you know, the layout of everything. So I just kind of wanted to hear it the way the sound person was hearing it and see if there was anything I could suggest. But I, having worked with this team before, because it's the same team that was working in Antwerp last year, so I found I could trust them, and then we could find it together. So it seemed like it sounded good by the end, but you know, the sound on stage is very different from the sound in the house. So it's kind of good to know what we're aiming for, you know, like what it sounds like, how it comes across. What it was I started on violin when I was little, when I was 3 years old, and I studied violin for 15 years. But also at the beginning of that, when I was little also, I started playing piano by ear because of the violin, you know, because I could kind of hear that this was the same note as this note, you know, so and also I could hear melodies, like I could figure out how to play melodies and things like that. The main thing that I learned from students is how they listen, because I find that listening is it evolves culturally and generationally, so you'll find that I find that people half my age listen differently. They listen for different things, they have different values, things that they appreciate in music, different from what people who are twice my age appreciate in music, you know. So I learned from that process, you know, like hearing how people hear. People are so used to a solitary listening experience now. You know, we just listen like this all the time, which means we're listening out of context most of the time, so we don't get a sense of why any of it happened, you know. Why did you play that then and not something else, or not that some other time, you know? It's hard to make sense of those choices if you don't have a sense of context, or, you know, what's involved in making those choices. We had a nice time. It was a nice audience, and it's a good festival. I mean, the same promoter does the Jazz Middelheim, and I was there last year as a resident artist, and so I've gotten to know the audience and the vibe